like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Okay, so get this.
Yeah.
You've got this woman, LaTroya Grayson,
Mm-hmm.
and she just filed this lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that Diddy.
Wow.
And she's alleging sexual assault. This is all happening while he's already in jail,
Oh, really?
awaiting trial for some other pretty serious charges, including racketeering,
Oh, wow.
which basically means running a criminal enterprise.
Okay.
What's really crazy about this is that this new lawsuit stems from an incident way back in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me,
Okay.
this story, it's about to take us down this rabbit hole of power, celebrity, and some pretty unsettling allegations.
What jumps out at me is the timing of this lawsuit.
Yeah.
It's almost like Grayson felt empowered to come forward. Once Combs was already in trouble with the law,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder if she might have felt
Right.
intimidated or silenced before.
Yeah, and that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
We're going back to 2006, a time when Diddy was at the top of his game.
Right?
Imagine winning a radio contest
Yeah.
for an all-expenses-paid trip to New York City
What?
for a Diddy White party.
Interesting.
This was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Combs himself, Bad Boy Entertainment, Atlantic Records.
Oh,
Even Delta Airlines was in on it.
wow.
Our plaintiff, LaTroya Grayson,
Okay.
she went as a guest
Okay.
of her half-sibling who was the actual contest winner.
So this detail is really interesting. It
Wow.
points to the allure and this exclusivity surrounding this event.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just talking about
Yeah.
a very meticulously crafted image,
Mm-hmm.
a party orchestrated by,
Totally.
one of the biggest names in the music industry at the time.
So they fly to New York, get whisked away to the party, but here's where things get strange.
Okay.
There's this line to get in,
Mm.
but it wasn't just about who arrived first.
Oh,
The lawsuit alleges that people were being selected based on attractiveness and attire.
really?
Yeah. Grayson manages to get in after 45 minutes,
Okay.
but her sibling, the actual contest winner, gets denied entry.
This selective entry process, it just raises so many red flags for me.
Yeah.
Why this focus on looks?
Right.
Was this party turning into something
Yeah.
other than what was advertised? And the fact that Grayson's sibling
Yeah.
was left out while she was allowed in,
Right.
that kind of separation, it's a tactic,
Right.
sometimes used to isolate and potentially exploit individuals.
And inside, the party's even more bizarre.
Yeah.
No open bar,
Interesting.
just waitresses serving pre-made drinks.
Hmm.
Think about that for a second.
Okay.
In a party scene where people are often mixing their own drinks,
Yeah,
this setup could be a way to control what people are consuming.
exactly.
Right.
It raises the question
Yeah.
of whether someone could have tampered with the drinks,
Right.
especially given what happens next.
Right.
Grayson says she had 2 drinks,
Mm.
sort of feeling sick, and that's the last thing she remembers.
And this is where the story takes a really dark turn.
Okay.
She wakes up the next morning in a hospital, completely disoriented.
Oh, wow.
No memory of how she got there.
Okay.
Her shirt's ripped. She's missing underwear and shoes.
Oh, my God.
And all of her money's gone except for a single $20 bill.
That is pretty chilling.
Yeah.
The missing clothing,
Right.
the missing money.
Yeah.
It paints a picture of potential violence and theft.
Right.
But honestly, the most disturbing part
Yeah.
is the memory loss.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a sign of trauma,
Right.
or possibly even a result of something being slipped into her drink.
And as if that wasn't bad enough,
Okay.
the next day she's back home in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And she gets a phone call from a woman with a New York area code.
Oh, wow.
And this woman basically tells her to not bother suing Diddy
Wow.
because he's too powerful and she'll just be wasting her time.
That phone call just adds another layer of complexity
Yeah.
to this whole story.
Right.
It suggests there was an attempt to intimidate Grayson into silence,
Mm-hmm.
which is unfortunately a tactic we often see used
Yeah.
to discourage victims from speaking out,
Right.
especially when powerful individuals are involved.
So for years, Grayson stays quiet.
Mm.
The threat, the hazy memory, the prospect of taking on someone like Diddy,
Yeah.
it's all incredibly daunting.
Right.
But then there's a twist.
Okay.
Combs gets arrested
Mm.
on completely unrelated charges.
Okay.
Sex trafficking,
Wow.
racketeering, conspiracy.
Wow.
He's currently in jail awaiting trial.
Okay.
And it's at this point that Grayson decides to file her lawsuit.
This is really where the timing of the lawsuit becomes so interesting.
Yeah.
Grayson even states in the lawsuit that she feels safer coming forward now
Right.
that Combs is actually incarcerated.
Right.
It really speaks volumes about the power dynamics at play and the fear that can prevent victims from seeking justice for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it really makes you wonder if seeing Combs behind bars kind of emboldened Grayson to come forward. And it's a sad reality that a lot of survivors of assault only feel safe enough to speak out.
Right.
When their alleged abuser is already facing consequences.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it makes you think how many other stories might be out there. But before we go down that road, let's get back to the lawsuit itself.
Okay.
What exactly is Grayson accusing Combs of?
Well,
The article mentions sexual assault, but it doesn't really get into specifics.
you're right. The lawsuit is kind of vague about the nature of the assault. It focuses more on the events leading up to that night.
Okay.
The suspicious circumstances surrounding the party
Right.
and that threatening phone call afterward.
So is it more about establishing a pattern of behavior?
Yeah.
Maybe painting a picture of a situation where something like this could have happened?
That seems to be the strategy.
Okay.
The lawsuit uses those details. The selective entry, the pre-made drinks, the missing time, the ripped clothing,
Yeah.
to create this narrative of potential vulnerability and exploitation.
But that kind of begs the question, is that enough?
Right.
I mean, can you win a lawsuit
Right.
based on what essentially amounts to circumstantial evidence?
It's definitely an uphill battle.
Right.
Without more concrete evidence like DNA or eyewitnesses to the actual assault,
Right.
it becomes a case of he said, she said.
So what kind of evidence could potentially support Grayson's claims? What should we be looking out for as this case unfolds?
Well, for starters,
Yeah.
there are other people who were at that party that night.
Right.
The lawsuit mentions potential witnesses,
Okay.
other contest winners who were there.
Okay.
Their testimonies could be really crucial.
You mean if they can corroborate Grayson's account of the selective entry, the weird vibe of the party?
Right.
Maybe even seeing her in distress.
Yeah.
That would add some weight to her story.
Exactly.
Okay.
Their accounts could help paint a more complete picture
Right.
of what happened that night. And there's also the matter of that threatening phone call.
Right.
If investigators can trace that call,
Yeah.
maybe identify the caller
Right.
and establish a link to Combs or someone associated with him,
Yeah.
that'd be a huge piece of evidence.
Yeah, it would definitely suggest an attempt to silence Grayson,
Right.
which could bolster her claim of intimidation and the power dynamics involved.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget,
Yeah.
she woke up in a hospital.
Right.
There have to be medical records from that visit.
Exactly.
Right.
Those records could provide some really valuable insights.
Yeah.
Maybe indicate signs of trauma
Okay.
or the presence of certain substances in her system.
So they could potentially corroborate
Exactly.
her claim that something happened to her that night, even if she doesn't remember the specifics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you see, it's not just her word against his.
Right.
There's a potential paper trail
Yeah.
that could support her story.
Okay, so there is some potential evidence out there, but this is just the beginning of what could be a really long and messy legal process.
Right.
Combs and his legal team are going to fight back hard.
Of course.
Right.
They'll likely challenge every piece of evidence, try to discredit Grayson's account,
Right.
and argue that this is just an attempt to capitalize on his current legal troubles.
So basically, they'll try to create enough reasonable doubt
Exactly.
to make it difficult for a jury to convict him.
Precisely. It's a high-stakes legal battle,
Yeah.
and the outcome is far from certain.
All right, let's shift gears for a sec and talk about the elephant in the room. Those other charges against Combs,
Right.
sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy. These are some seriously heavy accusations.
They absolutely are. And the potential penalties, if he's found guilty, could be really significant.
Yeah.
Now, you might be wondering how this new lawsuit
Right.
alleging sexual assault
Yeah.
could impact those existing charges.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay.
It seems like these two legal battles could be intertwined in some way.
You're spot on.
Okay.
The timing of Grayson's lawsuit adds a whole other layer of complexity to Combs' legal situation.
So how could this new development
Well,
affect the prosecution's approach to the existing charges?
they might see this as an opportunity
Okay.
to bolster their case against Combs. They could argue that this alleged incident in 2006,
Okay.
if proven true,
Right.
demonstrates a pattern of behavior
Okay.
that aligns with the accusations of sex trafficking and racketeering.
So they could basically say,
Yeah.
look, if he was capable of this type of behavior back then,
Right.
it's more likely he's guilty of what he's accused of now.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about building a narrative that portrays Combs as someone who exploits and abuses his power.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And how might Combs' defense team counter this new challenge?
Well, they'll probably try to distance Combs from this new lawsuit as much as possible.
Okay.
They might argue it's completely unrelated to the current charges.
Right.
And just paint it as an attempt to take advantage of his current situation.
So it's a classic case of trying to separate the two narratives and prevent the jury from drawing any connections.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
They'll want to keep the focus solely on the evidence related to the sex trafficking, the racketeering, and the conspiracy charges, and downplay any potential links to this alleged incident from 2006.
But wouldn't it be difficult to completely separate them?
Well,
I mean, both sets of accusations deal with potential exploitation and abuse of power.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make it hard for the jury to ignore?
You raise a valid point.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balance for the defense. They can't completely ignore the new lawsuit, right? But they'll want to minimize its impact on the jury's perception of Combs.
So it's a high-stakes game of legal chess,
That's a great analogy.
with each side trying to outmaneuver the other and control the narrative.
And the outcome of both these cases will depend on the strength of the evidence,
Right.
the skill of the legal teams, and ultimately how the jury interprets the information presented to them.
This is getting really intense.
It is.
It's fascinating to see how these legal battles
Yeah.
could potentially intertwine and influence each other.
It just goes to show that the legal system
Yeah.
is rarely straightforward.
Right.
There are often multiple layers,
Right.
unforeseen developments, and interconnected issues that can shape the course of a case.
And in this case,
Yeah.
the stakes are incredibly high,
Right.
not just for Diddy, but for all parties involved.
Yeah, it's definitely a heavy situation. And you're right, the stakes are incredibly high for everyone involved. Yeah, for sure.
But zooming out a bit,
Okay.
this whole thing, it really makes you think about the bigger picture, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This case, I think, really shines a light on the power dynamics that exist
Right.
within the entertainment industry. You have aspiring artists.
Yeah.
You've got these eager contest winners
Right.
all vying for a shot at their dreams. And then you have these larger-than-life figures like Diddy,
Yeah.
who hold a lot of sway.
It's that classic tale of the powerful versus the hopeful.
Yeah.
And sometimes that imbalance, it can make it incredibly difficult for people to speak up when something goes wrong.
Especially when you consider the potential fallout,
Right.
being blacklisted,
Yeah.
facing social isolation, or even legal battles.
Right, yeah.
It takes a lot of courage to come forward,
Yeah.
especially when you're going up against someone so powerful.
And then you add in the emotional toll of the trauma,
Yeah.
the fear of not being believed.
Right. And the pressure to stay silent, it's a lot for anyone to bear.
Absolutely.
It really makes you wonder how many stories go untold
Yeah.
because of these power dynamics and fear of retaliation.
That's a really sobering thought.
Yeah.
And it's why cases like this,
Right.
regardless of their outcome, are so important.
Yeah.
They can help spark a broader conversation
Right.
about accountability
Yeah.
and creating these safer environments
Right.
within the entertainment industry.
So it's not just about Diddy.
Right.
It's about a cultural shift.
Right.
Creating a culture where people feel empowered to speak up
Yeah,
without that fear of retribution.
absolutely. It's about having systems in place that protect vulnerable individuals,
Right.
investigate these allegations thoroughly,
Yeah.
and hold those in power accountable for their actions.
And hopefully that shift in the industry
Right.
can also lead to a change in societal attitudes
Yeah.
where victims are supported and encouraged to come forward. Yeah, like what we saw with the Me Too movement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even though this case is just getting started, it feels like it's already sparking some really important conversations
It is.
and prompting a lot of introspection.
Yeah, it certainly is. And as the legal process unfolds,
Right.
it'll be really interesting to see how it impacts not only Diddy's future,
Right.
but the industry as a whole.
This whole situation is a stark reminder that even in seemingly glamorous industries like entertainment,
Yeah.
there can be this dark underbelly.
Right.
and that no one is immune to the consequences of their actions.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's a lesson that resonates far beyond the confines of Hollywood or the music industry.
Right.
I mean, power dynamics exist everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
And it's so important to have these open dialogues about accountability, consent, and protecting vulnerable individuals.
Well, listeners, we've officially unpacked this one.
I think so.
We've gone from this seemingly simple radio contest to this complex web of allegations, power dynamics, and potential legal battles.
It's been a deep dive indeed.
It really has.
And hopefully it's left you with more questions than answers.
I think so.
Cases like this, I think, rarely have easy solutions.
Right.
But they force us to confront some uncomfortable truths.
Yeah.
And to consider the ways we can create a safer and more just world.
And as this case develops, we encourage you to stay informed, seek out reliable sources, and form your own conclusions. Remember, justice and accountability, they're ongoing pursuits.
Absolutely.
And it's up to each of us to stay engaged and use our voices to advocate for that positive change.
Until next time.
Yes.
Keep exploring. Keep questioning. And keep diving deep.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're Barbie doll.